think it's a very intuitive thing to do. And you're going to understand that in this part, it's actually one of the few places of the exam where you can actually talk about yourself. That is to say, to mention your opinion, to say what you think, what you believe about some particular topics. Okay, great. So we are live. And let us start with our excursus. Okay, let me please here stream this, okay, and share my screen with you. Great. Let's start then. So as you can see here, I have my presentation prepared for you. And let us let us comment on these general aspects of the writing section very quickly for us to know, let's say, the basics, right, of the writing section as we have been discussing, and for us to have a very good background before, of course, discussing this very specific topic that is the writing section task number 2. Okay, so as you can see here, well, the TOEFL writing section is basically designed to measure. Yeah, there is a question, I think. Yeah, Arlette, yes, tell me.
No, sorry.
Yes, another question?
No.
All right, no, it's okay, don't worry. Very good. All right, so yeah, I was trying to say that the writing section is designed to measure your ability to write down in English, of course, in academic settings, all right? And you're expected to be able to present your ideas in a very clear and well-organized manner, all right? So in very general terms, the writing section is divided into 2 different tasks, okay? So when I say task, the only thing that I mean is into 2 different activities, let's say, or into 2 different questions, however you want to, of course, think about it. And as I have said in tonight's class, and for the rest of the week, we're going to be discussing the writing section task number 2, all right? But in very general terms, as I say, the first task that is called, well, the integrated writing task, that is the first task of the writing section, is basically writing an essay, as I'm going to explain it later, well, in which we have to detail our summary of some materials ETS gives us. But in the independent writing task, that is the second task or question of the writing section, we have to write down a personal and independent essay. And this is what I want to, of course, let's say, explain a little bit further. And of course, we're going to discuss this in depth tonight. And this independent writing task number 2, it's basically a question that requires you to offer your opinion about a particular subject, as we're going to be discussing tonight. And then you have to write down an essay in response to that question, in which you offer your opinion. You state your opinion about that topic, and then you have to defend it. It's a very interesting dynamic. We're going to be discussing it very much deeply tonight. But in very general terms, that is exactly what we have to do in the second task, all right? Now, here, very important always to remind this, even if it is repetitive, the idea is that, dear students, the IBT version and the home IBT version, as we have seen in the introductory class, are modalities of the exam in which you have the chance, dear students, to take your exam through a computer, as we have discussed, right? And if you don't remember this, please go to the introductory class, right? That was the first class we had together. And the idea is that, as we have said in the IBT version and home IBT version, we have to take our exam through a computer, right? And given that that is going to be the case, you're going to have to, of course, write down your essay, responding to the questions you have in this section through your computer using a keyboard, right? A conventional keyboard. Now, it's very important for you to understand that when you're taking the IBT version or the home IBT version, the exam is going to force you to write down this essay using the keyboard you have or you get, right? Depending whether you're taking the IBT version or the home IBT version, you're going to be forced to write down your essay using the American English configuration in your keyboard. Because as many of you may know, our configuration normally, right, when we have computers in Bolivia or in South America, our computers are programmed with their keyboard configuration into Spanish, of course, right? That is to say, the letters we write in our keyboard are located into the Spanish position, Latin American Spanish, commonly. Nonetheless, when we are about to take the exam, as I say, if we go to the test center in the IBT version, they give us a keyboard that is configured with the American configuration or the American standard that is known as ASCII, right? For the people who know a little bit about programming and systems engineering. But as I say, it's very important for you, dear students, that when you are practicing for the exam, you have to, of course, if you're practicing at home, right, you have to change your configuration of the keyboard into English, that is to say American English, because where do you go? To a test center to take the exam, or you stay at home and take it through the home IBT version, you're going to be forced and of course required to write down your essay using American English configuration. Okay, so please do that. It's very easy to do that, right? You go to your configurations. Let me show you very quickly. You go to your equipment, right? Let's say here, for example, and let's say you go here normally to Microsoft. If you have Microsoft 10 configuration, then you look for idiom, and then of course you find out, as I say, idiom, and you find out this, right? Keyboard, and as you can see, mine is in English, USA, and this is exactly what it must also be configured in your own computer. Okay, very good. Great. So is there any question with regard to these general aspects? Something that I should clarify here, maybe? Any question, dear students? Something? No? No questions? Okay. Great. Fantastic. So if there are no questions, we can move on. Right? So let us start then with, as I told you, our particular topic tonight. That is the second task of the writing section, the second question we're going to be confronting. Now, this second task, dear students of the writing section, is called independent essay, as I showed you before. And the reason because of that, dear students, is that in this part of the exam, you're going to be totally independent. Well, let's say not totally, but almost totally independent, in the sense that the only thing you're going to receive from ETS and that you have to respect from ETS is the question they give you. That is to say, the topic of the exam. But how you write the exam, what you include in the exam, is going to be totally of your own. It's going to be totally of your own, as I say. It's going to be up to you. You are going to be the person deciding what information, what data, what particular content to include in your essay. And that's the reason why this is called independent essay. All right. Now, in this second task, they ask you to write down an essay in which you state, explain, and support your opinion on an issue. All right. And you have 30 minutes to write down your essay. Okay, dear students. As I say, the question they give you is a very general and normal question. Let me give you a very short example before I show you this on my simulator for you to understand it better. But for example, the question could be, in your opinion, what is the best possible pet? A dog or a cat? Could be something as trivial as that. Or it could be, for example, in your personal opinion, what is the best climate? Let's say, I don't know, when it is summer or when it is winter. Or for example, it could be, I don't know, what do you prefer? Sunny days or rainy days? Something like that. And as you can see, the idea is that they're always going to give you questions that, although they are very trivial, as I say, and very much, let's say, trifling, they are going to be always divisive. That is to say, they are going to divide people. They are very controversial questions. And as they are controversial questions, that is, of course, where you're going to be, as I say, defending your own personal opinion on this particular question. And how you're going to offer your opinion, as I say, by writing an essay. And that essay is going to be your response to that question. And that is all you have to do in this task of the writing section. It's as simple as that. And now your objective, as I say, is to not merely state your opinion, but you also have to defend it. And that's the reason why, for example, here, I posted the picture of this meme. Probably many of you know him, very famous political commentator nowadays, right? Ben Shapiro. And the reason why I decided to post his picture here is because he is said to be a very good debater. I am supposing that you know what is a debate, right? A debate is a platform in which two people share their ideas, they discuss what they believe. If they, for example, I don't know, a topic for a debate could be, I don't know, let's say, should sugary drinks be penalized, like Coca-Cola or Fanta or Sprite? I don't know. And people say, no, I believe they shouldn't be penalized. And other people say, no, but they actually should be penalized. And they start, as I say, offering their opinions, but at the same time, they defend their ideas, right? Because there are two contrary sides. One particular speaker defends an idea, and the other one defends a contrary position, right? And they start to give arguments, etc. So when we are in this essay, dear students, I want you to imagine that you are going to be debating, because as I say, the idea is that in this question, you're going to state your opinion But in the rest of the essay, you're also going to offer some reasons, some motives why you have that opinion. Why is it that you were convinced of that opinion in the first place? Why you hold that opinion? And in order to do this, you're going to offer some arguments and illustrations. And as I'm going to show you, don't worry, because I have a template and a structure prepared for you to, of course, understand how you should appropriately write this essay. So don't worry about that. But the idea in very general terms is that, as I say, presenting your opinion about a particular topic and then defending it, okay? Offering reasons, arguments, illustrations for demonstrating why you hold that position, okay? As simple as that. So before you make your questions, let me show you this on my simulator for you to understand better. And then I'm gonna give some space for you to make questions, okay? Here I am, give me a second. Okay, here. All right. So, practice, right. Good. Writing independent essay, great. So, as I always say, this simulator, it's a very, very good image to what is actually going to be appearing on your screen on the day of the exam, whether you are taking the IBT version or the home IBT version, right? So look at my screen, and this is exactly what you're also going to be watching on your screen the day of the exam. So look at this. On one side of your computer, you're going to have this some set of instructions. As you can see, this set of instructions describes, right, some general terms of the essay, as I told you. Now here we have a very interesting thing. As you can see, it says, typically, an effective essay will contain a minimum of 300 words, okay? They are asking you to write a minimum quantity of words, and that is 300. Let me come back here very quickly to my slides. And here is very important because I was about to mention that how much time you have in order to write down this essay. You have 30 minutes, okay? You have 30 minutes to write down this essay, as I say, offering your opinion and also defending it. And in this 30 minutes, ETS is requesting you to come up with at least 300 words. Nonetheless, it will be excellent if you can reach 450 words for this part of the test, that is to say in your essay. Because if you compare, for example, essays of people who have received, I don't know, more than 100 in their TOEFL exam, normally it is a very much repetitive pattern that they have essays containing more than 400 words, although, as I say, the minimum requirement is 300, okay? So you can be content if you write down at least 300 words. Nonetheless, it would be absolutely and overwhelmingly better if you write down at least 400 words, okay? So as I say, the minimum, let's say the legal minimum, it's 300, but it will be excellent if you manage to write down 450, okay? In order to do this, you have to write down at least or approximately 15 words per minute, okay? So of course, in order to practice your typing, to improve this, to improve your velocity at typing, because for many people, it's not that much easy, of course, to write down a lot of words, right? Using your keyboard, you can practice by getting into the following websites. And both of these helped me a lot when I was also practicing for the TOEFL exam, typingtest.com. And the second one is sense/lang.org. And trust me that you can, by using these websites and of course, writing a lot, right, in your computer, try to switch, for example, your habits. Maybe you are somebody who is used to write down a lot in your cell phone. For example, when you have, I don't know, some sort of investigation to do as homework or as an assignment, you tend to do it in your cell phone. Nonetheless, now please try to do it in your computer. Try to change, as I say, your habits for a little bit, for a while. And by doing so, you're going to have, as I say, a lot of practice in writing. And that, of course, is going to increase your velocity at typing very rapidly. And trust me, it's very easy to improve this because I remember the first time I wrote an essay, like for this part of the exam, I wrote like 200 words. So, and the last time I took the exam, I managed to write down, I think, 530 or something like that. So as I say, it's not that much difficult. It's just a matter of practice, okay? So by using these websites and practicing a lot, as I say, changing your habits, your routine to also alter, of course, your performance, you can improve this, okay? Great. So having clarified that, let me come back here to my simulator and let me show you this. So I was mentioning, typically 300 words, right? The quality of your writing includes the development of your ideas, the organization of your essay, the quality and accuracy of the language you use to express your ideas, and as I told you, 30 minutes to plan and also, of course, complete the essay, okay? And below that, you're going to have I see Arlette has a question. Yes, Arlette, please tell me. Or maybe it's another.
Sorry, it's my computer. I don't have a question.
Okay, no, great. Don't worry, Arlette. It's fine. It happens. Great. So let me continue. Below here, as you can see here, we have the topic, as I told you. Let me read it with you. It's a very simple topic, as I told you. It's very trivial. It's always very trivial. It says, some people suggest that it is wrong to give money to beggars asking for money on the street, while others think that it is the right thing to do. Which point of view do you think is correct and why? And as I say, topics are always like this. Like they are very repetitive. In the sense that they are always asking about trifling questions, but very much divisive. And notice, for example, that supposedly, at least the way they sell this question is that this is an open question, okay? But if you think about it very carefully, it is not, let's say, a totally open question. Why? Because as you can see, the question is suggesting, right? You have two options. You can believe that it is good for you to give money to beggars on your street, or you can, on the other hand, believe that it is actually a terrible idea. It is not the right thing to do to offer some money to these people on the street. So somehow the question itself is limiting your range of responses to two different options, whether you believe it is a good thing to do to give money to beggars, or whether you disagree with that and you say, no, it's actually a terrible idea. So as you can see, the question itself is designed to force you to take one of these positions. So yes, you have to give your opinion, but taking one of these two positions. And you're going to notice that 90% of the time in our practices, questions are like this. That is to say, although they are free, because you can, of course, offer your opinion and give your own reasons and illustrations, the range of responses, of possible responses you can give, are these two. They give you this or this, black or white. They give you right and left. So you have to go for one of these particular sides. And please, here I want to recommend, as always, it is never a good idea to write down an essay offering a response that is some sort of middle ground, because I have seen that many people try to do that. For example, writing an essay and saying, I believe that sometimes it's good for me to give money, but sometimes not, depending on the circumstance. And I would say that that is not a correct response. It is not let's say, a good approach to this task, because notice the question. The question itself is somehow forcing you to take a very, very much singular position. And that's because I think that ETS wants to test how good you are defending your own opinion. And notice that, let us remember, this exam is very important if you want to apply to universities and job positions. And remember, all these skills are very useful for them to analyze your profile and to accept you, right, into their institutions. So they want to see if you're able to discuss your own ideas, to offer a particular a particular definition of your perceptions and to defend it, importantly. Okay, so please, as I say, always go for one of the positions they give you, unless the question is totally open. And you're going to notice that, for example, maybe the question is, I don't know, it could be, what is the best memory you have? Or what was the best trip you ever had? Something like that. And of course, in that case, if the question is totally open because it's asking you, right? What was the best trip you ever had? Right? In that case, of course, it is not telling you, right? This or this. It's not giving you two answers or two options. It's giving you a totally free space for you to write down about your memories and stuff like that. So if that is the case, of course, you can choose whatever you want. But when the questions are like this, that they are forcing you to, as I say, take one of two different positions, go for one of them. In your essay, go for the position, whether for the position that says a right thing to give money to beggars or not a good thing. And other questions are, as I say, like that. What is the best pet, cats or dogs? And you can say in your essay, dogs, and defend that idea, but never say, oh, I love both of them. And I'm going to tell you the reasons why both of them are great. Don't do that. Okay, as I say, it's not a good idea. Great. So apart from that, look at my screen. The next thing you have on the menu, because as I say, this is a pretty much accurate picture of what is going to be appearing on your screen on that day. Here, as you can see, you have the reply box. And here, dear students, is where you write down your essay. Okay, here, as you can see, you're able to write down, for example, you say, right, I don't know, as many people, I don't know, as many people and experts, whatever, right, experts, let's say, have suggested, whatever, right? The idea is to write down something. I'm going to show you how to write it, etc. As you can see here, I am able to write down, right? And now let me, for example, write something incorrectly on purpose. Let's say I write half with B, like this. Or like that, for example, half, right? Let me, I hope it's gonna, yeah, like that. So notice, for example, in this case, there is something that is telling me, hey, you have written half inappropriately. It is wrongly written. It is incorrectly written, right? Because half, of course, as you know, is written with B, right? But not with B. So what is the idea? That in this case, dear students, it happens to me this, not because on the exam you're going to be able to have something that tells you, hey, this word you wrote is incorrectly written. I happen to experience this right now because, of course, first of all, this is a simulator, right? It's not exactly the same as the exam. And secondly, I have Grammarly. Most importantly, I would say. So Grammarly in this case is telling me, hey, you have an incorrect word here. It's incorrectly written. But on the day of the exam, dear students, nothing is going to tell you, hey, here you have committed a mistake in your grammar. Or nothing is going to highlight, for example, with red or with yellow, as it happens, for example, in Microsoft Word, right? When we write something incorrectly, Microsoft Word tells us, right, hey, here's wrong. And they highlight the word in red. That is not going to happen on the exam. The only manner you have to check out your grammar, your orthography, your syntax is yourself, basically. You are the one who, at some point during your exam or during the time you have for writing this essay, you have to check it out. You have to check out your essay, go word by word, looking at every single word, structure, sentence, making sure that all your words are correctly written in a corresponding syntax, grammar, etc., etc. Okay? So please, this is very important for you to know, all right? This is not going to happen on the exam, but as I say, well, you have to be very careful of this. Now, let me continue. What happens apart from that? As you can see here, there is a very interesting menu. It says word counter, right? And this is also going to be appearing on your exam the day of the exam itself. This word counter, as the name indicates, is basically how you're going to be able to know and measure how many words you have written, right? Instead of counting them by one by one. That would be the case if you were taking the PBT version, for example, right? That is on paper, and there is no manner to give you a tool for you to count your words. In this case, when you're taking the exam through a computer, it does it automatically because, as I say, the word counter basically calculates how many words you have written until that point. So if I continue writing, notice the word counter. If I say, as many people and experts have suggested, it is not, let's say, a very much, I don't know, beneficial, let's say, action to offer money without previous consideration. I don't know, whatever, right? Notice how my word counter is augmenting, right? And as you can see, it says word counter 21 in this case, although in the past it was in 7 or 8 words. And this is always going to be the case, all right? Your word counter is going to tell you how many words you have written. And this is how you're going to be able to measure, okay, your words, and of course to make sure how many words you have written until that time, okay? And that's it pretty much. This is your menu. Apart from that, here on the top, there are going to be some buttons that are going to say copy and paste. And of course, I guess they are available here in this part of the exam because, I don't know, maybe at some point you want to quote your own essay, right? For example, you want to quote this, right, that you wrote here at some point, like, I don't know, like this, right? For example, maybe you want to quote, let's say, as I said previously, I don't know, as I said previously, right? And you make your quotation commas and you paste, right? And that's the reason why copy and paste are available here. But of course, you cannot copy and paste something else, but your own essay in order to make quotations of your own writing if you want. That is the only imaginable purpose of those buttons as I consider them. Anyways, apart from that, there is another button that says undo. And of course, that undo button is for example, imagine you erase this, right? Accidentally, all your essay, it happens. It has happened to me. Of course, you can press undo or Control Z in its defect, and of course, everything is going to appear once again. Okay, so of course, you are protected against that. Don't worry. If you accidentally erase everything, you have a chance to, as I say, undo it. Okay, so be very careful when you do that. Okay, it's very important for you to have that in mind because, well, at some point maybe you're going to have some blunder, and you can, well, in this case, recover yourself. Great. And as you can see, that's it. Now, the only thing we have to discuss is how to write down the essay. But with regard to the menu and the general aspects, as I say, you have to write down an essay, offering your opinion, stating what you believe, in this case, of course, of this question, and offering some reasons and illustrations why you believe that way. Okay, is there any question, dear students, with regard to this menu or with regard to the theoretical part? Please tell me. Anything? Yes, Danilo, please tell me. Yes, Danilo, you have your mic off? Yes, okay, I can hear you now.
Carlos, as I told you on WhatsApp, I have to retire now. Sorry for interrupting.
Okay, no, it's okay, dear Danilo, don't worry. I totally understand. So as I say, the class is recorded, so you can just rewatch it later on when you have time, and you're going to be able to even yourself. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, my pleasure. Very good. Don't worry. Okay, great. Well, is there any other question? Any other thing that I could clarify here? Please tell me. Questions, ideas, something else? No? Okay,
No
great.
questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Roy. Fantastic. Okay, so I think there are no questions. So let us start then with how to write down this essay. So right now I'm sending to your WhatsApp groups a very important piece of information, and I want you to download it, please, okay? I'm sending this here, first of all. Okay, right there, the documents, and of course here as well. Okay, so please go to your WhatsApp groups and download this document. It's very important for you to have this, all right? So if you open that document, you're gonna be able to see this, okay? What I'm seeing right now on my screen. This is the template or structure you're going to be using for writing your essays, okay? This is the same structure you should memorize and of course apply in your own essays, all right? So if you open that document, as you can see, our template and the structure for this essay consists of basically three different parts or elements. We have an introduction, we have a body, and finally we have a conclusion, all right? I'm going to explain each of these items, don't worry, step by step. And if you scroll down a little bit, you're going to find out another very important thing. Here is an essay that I wrote myself using the same structure we have here in order for you to know how I apply this into an actual essay, of course, so you can do exactly the same. That is to say, when we practice tomorrow, you're going to have the chance to, of course, always look at my essay in order to have some sort of reference, right? And to see, okay, well, he applied this like this in this essay, so I can do something very similar to that. And that is the idea, okay? So as I say here, we have the template, the structure with three different items. And then we also have, as I say, the essay, okay, that I wrote using that same structure. And maybe you're wondering, what was the question I was responding in this essay? Let me come back here to my slides and I'm going to show you what was that particular topic. Okay, here I have it. So the question I responded in this essay, and it's very important for you to know it because we're going to be analyzing this essay right now, is this one. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Reading is more educational than watching movies or TV. I repeat, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Reading is more educational than watching movies or TV. Now notice that in this particular question, there are two different possibilities for me. I can whether disagree or agree with it. And there is no, as I say, a third option, or it wouldn't be a good idea to respond in a middle ground to say, you know, I believe both of them are good actually, right? So why not to go for both of them? Not a good thing to do, not a good approach to the essay, okay? So better, as I say, always to go for one of these two positions they are offering me in this case, whether believing, hey, reading is indeed more educational than watching movies or TV, or going for the contrary position, saying, no, actually watching movies and TV is more educational than reading. I disagree with this, right? So in my essay, you're gonna notice this, but I'm gonna, of course, tell you this in advance. In my essay, I wrote, of course, my opinion defending this position, that indeed, personally, I believe, reading is more educational than watching movies or TV. So this is the position I'm going to be defending in my essay that, as I say, is part of the document that I sent you, okay? The essay that I wrote following the structure for you to see how to apply it is, as I say, responding to this question and following this particular idea or opinion. Reading, personally, I believe, is indeed more educational than watching movies or TV, okay? Very good. So let me come back now to the document and let me show you how to apply this step by step. All right, so here we have the first part of the template. Look at it. It says introduction, and it is composed of three different items. We have a fact number 1, we have a fact number 2, and we have accordingly, right? Now, the first thing I want you to notice is that, for example, this fact number 1 is highlighted with yellow, right? And the reason why I did that is because I want you to understand that here in the essay I wrote below, I also highlighted my fact number 1 when I wrote it right in this essay, so that you can identify it and say, okay, this is what he means when he says fact number 1. The same, for example, for fact number 2, right? It's highlighted with red. And also here, my fact number 2 is highlighted with red. And the same for all the parts of this structure. Accordingly, for example, look at it with light blue, and also here below with light blue, right? Accordingly, and of course, I continue, all right? So having explained that is going to be working as a mechanism for the entire structure and essay, let me now continue with the explanation of each of these items, okay? So what is fact number 1? Let me show you first how I use this in my essay. So let me show you my fact number 1. That is, of course, the first piece of information you mentioned in your essay. Let us read together. It says, it has been scientifically demonstrated decades ago that people who read 5 books per year have a wider vocabulary than the average people. Notice the sentence that I wrote. What is this basically? A fact, right? In this case, my fact number 1, it's basically a piece of information and data I am writing in this first stage of my essay that, as you can see, is starting to build my case in favor of my position. Because notice that although I am not mentioning here my opinion yet, right? Notice that this sentence doesn't actually tell my opinion, doesn't actually reveal what is my position on this essay. It is somehow, because you know already what is my position, right? It is starting, as I say, to build my case in favor of this position. It's a piece of information and data I was aware of at that time when I wrote the essay that, as I say, it's somehow supporting my position. It's supporting my opinion that I'm later on going to reveal in the essay. That is, as I told you, that I consider reading is more educational than watching movies or TV. But notice here in my document, the first fact, the fact number 1, is, as I say, a piece of information or data that you are aware of when you're writing the essay that you use in order to, let's say, argue in favor of your own position without even mentioning your opinion, okay? That is the purpose and the definition of this fact number 1. And by the way, dear students, it is not necessary when you are adding this information or fact to mention some sort of, I don't know, quotation or to mention the source from which you derive this information. I know that many of you are used to this because of the university and stuff, that you have to, of course, make a reference, right, to each piece of information you mentioned in your essays. But of course, given that, remember this is a very personal essay, it is not necessary for us to mention any type of reference, source, etc. And actually, for example, this fact or information, it is not something you have to, let's say, actually know indeed, because you can actually make up, you can invent this information or data, of course, in favor of your position, as far as it is rational, as far as when you read it, you say, okay, well, this is probably true, right? And when you read this sentence, for example, the one that I wrote, you say, okay, this is probably true, right? Because, as I say, it's a rational sentence. And although I'm not, in this case, quoting or making any reference to my source or something like that, it is, as I say, building my case in favor of my position right from the beginning. And you can do exactly the same for any topic you receive, okay? Then we come to the fact number 2, that is basically the same, but of course with other information. Fact number 2, look at it, it's immediately after. I'm using here a connector. Likewise, you can use any other connector if you want. TV has been widely recognized as destructive by several medical experts and researchers. Notice that in this case, I am using another piece of information and data, and I'm trying to suggest, hey, my position is right because some researchers have said and discovered and concluded that TV is actually very much harmful for people. It's destructive, right? So as I say, without even mentioning my opinion, I am starting to build my case in favor of it, right? With these 2 pieces of information, okay? So when I have finalized, and when you have finalized with that, with fact number 1 and fact number 2, what you do is to move on to the third and last part of the introduction, as simple as that. This is a connector, accordingly, right? That in Spanish means por lo tanto, or en consecuencia, right? Accordingly. And here, what you have to do, dear students, is to, at this time, okay, here is the only moment you can do it, to mention your opinion, to state your opinion on the question they gave you in a very clear and concise manner. Look at how he did it. Accordingly, TV is certainly not more educational than reading. As a matter of fact, reading is absolutely superior to any TV education means. As you can see, what I'm doing is to state my opinion very or dramatically clear. I'm not here leaving any space for my reviewer, right? The person who's going to read this essay and is going to give me my qualification and a score. I'm not leaving in any type of space for hesitating. Hey, what opinion is this test taker trying to defend? Because as my sentence is very concise, it's not a very long explanation, it's a very concise, but nonetheless very clear and objective sentence stating my opinion, I am, as I say, let's say, determining and somehow delineating my particular opinion right from the beginning in a very, very concise and clear manner. And that is what you have to do. Please avoid in this part of the essay any type of ambiguity. It is not a good idea to be ambiguous. As I say, use very affirmative and indicative sentence, always speaking with affirmation, saying, you know, TV is certainly not more educational than reading. As a matter of fact, reading is absolutely superior to any TV education means. Because remember, at this point, you are totally convinced, right, of your position and opinion. So you have to convey that to your reviewer, that you are totally secure and confident of your own opinion, that you're going to start to defend from here on. Okay, so as I say, after you write down accordingly, state your opinion with a very concise sentence, but in a very clear and objective and also affirmative manner. Okay, TV is absolutely less educational than reading. As you can see here, I'm not using any type of subjunctive language. I'm not saying maybe TV is more educational than reading, or sometimes TV is more educational than reading. What I'm saying is, no, TV is certainly not more educational than reading, right? I'm speaking in a very indicative manner with affirmations. And that is what you have to do, as I say, to avoid any type of ambiguity in your essay, all right? And that is the introduction, basically. As you can see, it's as simple as that. And then you write down here a transition phrase, okay? That is basically a manner or a mechanism for you to indicate to the reviewer, hey, here I have finalized with my introduction, and now I'm going to start with my body. That is going to be the defense of your opinion, right? And it can be a sentence like this one. This opinion is due to the following motives. Or you can say, I'm going to proceed to expose my views now, or henceforth, I'm going to expose what reasons I postulate for this opinion, something like that. Whatever you can come up with is good, okay, it's fine. But the point is that a transition phrase is a very good mechanism, as I say, to offer unity and also organization to the essay, because we are saying, hey, I'm stopping here with the introduction, I'm moving to the body, please pay attention, right? So as I say, a transition phrase is elementary, I believe. This opinion is due to the following motives, and you always, as you can see, finalize your introduction with 2 points, right? Because, well, the rest is going to be the body and the conclusion, as I say, right? So 2 points or column, however you want to name this, is very important, I would say. All right. Well, great. Any question, dear students, with regard to how to write down the introduction, something that you could clarify, please tell me. Questions before we move on? Okay, I think that we have Arlette. Yes, Arlette, please tell me.
Yes, I have a question. So you can invent some facts, but my concern is if you can invent some quotes like I don't know, a magazine or an article of newspaper, something like that. You can invent it for expose your facts or your ideas. I don't know if it's valid to do that.
Okay. Yeah, it's totally legitimate. Now, of course, the reason why we are enabled to do this, to make up information, is because let us remember the person who's going to read this essay is a professional in English, right? It's, let's say, an English professional reviewer who is hired by ETS to review this essay. So that person, of course, is not, let's say, an expert, right, of this particular discipline or topic. So yeah, you can do it, of course. And yeah, I mean, I've seen people who refer to somehow claim this authoritative source, right? Because when you are saying the New York Times, for example, said this, somehow
Yes.
you're trying to postulate authority, right, to your essay. So it's totally fine. Yeah, you can do it. I personally never decided to do so because I was not very much aware of that medium. But if you are able to do it, of course, yes, totally, it's valid.
Okay, thank you.
All right, very good. My pleasure. So, Grisel, yes, you also have a question. Please tell me.
Yes, teacher. How many lines do our paragraphs have to have in order to be, I don't know, optimum? Maybe I think it's not good to have many lines in one paragraph. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the question. Yes. I wouldn't say it's a huge concern. Yeah, I mean, when you let us remember that the idea here is to write down as much or as many words, I'm sorry, as we can write. So the length of each paragraph wouldn't be a major concern. What I would say, of course, is that what we have to try to do in our essay is to make it very organized, right? Because, for example, what some people do very erroneously is that they do not offer spaces, right, between their paragraphs. But notice that each of our paragraphs here are separated, right, by some spaces. So I think that organization and clearness would be the major concern. But with regard, for example, to the length of the paragraphs, how many lines you're writing, I would say as much as you can, because the idea is that, as I say, you are trying to aim as many words as possible, optimally 450, 500 if it is possible. So I think that we would try to, of course, write down as many words as we are able to, always, of course, taking care of completing the structure as a major concern, right? The idea is to write down the introduction, the body with its 2 paragraphs, as we are going to discuss right now, and the conclusion, right? And once we have that, and we also have remaining time, we can say, okay, I can make something else. I can, I don't know, include some other information and data I had. But with regard to the lines, it's totally fine if you write down, of course, as much as you can. Okay, is that fine?
Okay, thank you, teacher.
All right, my pleasure. Very good. Any other question, dear students? Any other thing? All right. So let me move to the body. The body is very simple. As I told you, in the body, what we're going to do is to defend our position, because until this point we have stated our opinion. But from here on, we're going to, as I say, we're going to defend it. That is very important, right? So let me show you how. We're going to defend it by using arguments and illustrations. Let us listen to that once again. We're going to defend our position and opinion by offering arguments and illustrations. How many? 2 arguments and 2 illustrations. 1 argument and its illustration, and a second argument and its illustration. And as you can see here, each of those arguments and illustrations is going to have its separate paragraph. That is to say, 1 paragraph for the first argument and illustration, and 1 paragraph for the second argument and illustration. Okay, let me show you how I apply this. So as I say, we have a first argument, and that's the reason why we have this connector here first, right? And let me show you what was my first argument for my position. Remember, my position is TV is not more educational than reading. What are my reasons, my motives for believing this? First, right, as you can see here, reading offers people the opportunity to have a slower and longer perception of different topics. Okay, I repeat, reading offers people the opportunity to have a slower and longer perception of different topics. As you can notice, my argument in this case is very short, because this is all my argument. My argument is a very single sentence that says, hey, I think that when you are reading, you are able to have a longer perception, slower, of several topics at the same time. Good. That is my first argument for saying, I believe that reading is more educational than watching movies or TV. That is my argument. As you can see, I am avoiding any type of ambiguity. I am once again, very concise, very clear. I'm not making a long sentence, because let us remember this as a general concept. Long sentences always confuse people instead of helping you. I know that in Spanish, we're used to write down long sentences with a lot of commas. But in English, it's way preferable to write down short sentences. And it's actually better for you, because writing short sentences is a very easy process, right? Instead of writing a lot of, or a long sentence with a lot of commas, so you have to worry about punctuation even more. But write very short and concise sentences. And of course, you can sometimes have some lengthy sentences as well, but with limitations, right? So look at my arguments, very simple, very clear, very concise. When I have written that, what is next? A connector, as a matter of fact. And by the way, dear students, all these connectors, and to this point, as you can see here, as a matter of fact, according to appropriate for hearsay. On top of that, all of these connectors work for the single and only purpose of complementing my argument. Because as I told you, my argument, in order to avoid any type of confusion and ambiguity, is very short and concise. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the chance to explain that argument further. And all these connectors that I have here are basically fulfilling that purpose. They are tools, and basically, as I say, they are entrances for me to complement my argument, my first argument. In this case, that reading offers people the opportunity to have a slower and longer perception of different topics. And as I say, all the information I included here is of my own. I'm not copying anything, I'm not reading anything. It's just what I believe, what I can offer, what I can say. And I want you to do the same in your essays. Write what you know, what you believe, what you say, because as I say, this is one of the very few spaces in the exam when everything is valid, everything is legitimate. You can write whatever you want, okay? But as I say, complementing and of course, adding something positive to your case in favor of the position you're defending, right? So look at it. As a matter of fact, when people have a book in their hands, they have not the trouble of moving on to the next thing without having understood the previous one. Namely, people can easily go back to the previous page and read again that section they may have not understood appropriately, right? As you can see, I am complementing this very short argument, right? I'm setting, or I am stating in this case, more information, and then sharing some comments and beliefs that I think that, of course, are in favor of my position. Then I have another connector, notice, according to appropriate for hearsay. Appropriate for hearsay, by the way, it's something you have heard, but you are not sure where it came from. Something like, for example, I don't know, when your uncle comes to you and says, did you listen to that, knew that the war is going to end in 2030, right? Something like that. But of course, your uncle listened to that, but he has no idea where he listened it from, if it has some sort of authoritative source as NASA or I don't know, Harvard, whatever. It's just an apocryphal for hearsay, something you listen to, but you're not sure if it is true. And as you can see here, that is also valid. You can say, okay, according to apocryphal hearsay, something I listened to, but I'm not sure the source, says this. And if you know that it's in favor of your position, add it. For example, according to apocryphal hearsay, just 5 of 30 words read by somebody are forgotten by the reader. And this is something I knew when I wrote the essay, but as I am accepting here, hey, this is apocryphal hearsay, it's totally valid and legitimate for me to write down this information, even though I do not know if it is true or actually, I don't know, factual. You can write it. As I said, everything is here plausible and adds for your case in favor of your position, okay? Then another connector. On top of that, I am still complementing my argument. I'm not doing anything else on top of that. And have more information. Reading offers, okay, on top of that, here it is. Reading offers the opportunity to have people retaining more than they will in fact retain if merely exposed to video content, right? That's it. Now, when I have analyzed this, notice that all of this is basically my argument and its complements, right? I offer here a very short and concise argument, and here I complemented it, right, with more information I had very handy at that time. Well, when we have come to this point, here we are, of course, with a very important word and connector, exemplifying. And as I told you, each of these paragraphs has an argument and also an illustration. Dear students, illustrations are tremendously powerful. When you write down an argument and you explain a lot of reasons and you actually mention, if you want, scientific data and you start to name a lot of things, that is not that much compelling. But when you mention an illustration, your essay is not only more understandable, but it's actually way more complete and convincing. It's way more compelling. So exemplifying, offering an illustration of your argument, how it applied to your personal life or to the environment surrounding you, it's very powerful. And remember that here, we're trying to convince the reviewer, the person who's going to read this, that our position is true. So let us use any resource we have. And what you do after you write out, what you do after writing down exemplifying is to mention, as I say, an illustration that somehow exemplifies your argument here. This one, right? Reading offers people the opportunity to have a slower and longer perception of different topics. Let us see my illustration. Exemplifying, I always struggled as a child with watching a TV documentary my professors used as material for my philosophy classes. Never was I more flabbergasted than that day. This basically means nunca estuve más contento, right? Never was I more flabbergasted than that day when I got a book on the same topic written by the well-known philosopher William Lane Craig. For I did not have trouble to understand anymore. My mind went through all the content very smoothly. Moreover, if I was not able to understand something in its fullness, then I could always stop for a while and thus to proceed. As you can see, I am offering a very personal and a specific illustration that exemplifies this, right? Because here in my argument, I said, hey, this allows you to have a slower and longer perception of things. And here in my illustration, I am describing how when I was a child, I had a trouble to understand. I was very slow understanding certain topics, especially in philosophy. Therefore, I got a book on that topic, and that problem basically disappeared because I was able to, as I say, and as I wrote throughout my entire argument and its complement, I was able to stop whenever I wanted, to reread that topic, to immerse myself into each of those themes. I actually learned about philosophy by reading instead of watching documentaries, right? So as you can see, my illustration is very personal and very specific. And those are basically the elements, or let's say the ingredients, for you to have a fantastic illustration. If you add those two characteristics to your formula, a very personal and a specific illustration, trust me, your illustration is going to be very, very much compelling. And as I say, once again, you can make this up completely. In this case, for example, this is true. I enjoy philosophy, but when I was a child, I had some troubles understanding it. So I use it here, right? I use my own life to talk about this. But you can make it up. How could your reviewer possibly know that you are lying, or in this case, inventing something? He can not know, right? Because in this case, he doesn't know you. So you can talk about whatever you want. You can invent and make it up if you want. Remember, this is not an exam about honesty. It's an exam about your English. And any type of device, tool, mechanism you can use in order to demonstrate how good you are writing in English, use it. So you can make it up completely if you want, okay? And you're gonna notice in my next paragraph, I made it up completely, okay? So very good. And when you finalize with your illustration for the first argument, then you finalize with a paragraph, and that is the first part of the body. Any question, dear students, so far? Any question about the body? Please tell me. Questions? Doubts? No questions? No? All right, great. So the second paragraph is basically the same. As I told you, we have a second argument, right? And here in this case, we're gonna name or state that second argument with furthermore. So we said, right? Furthermore, and here we state our second argument. What was my second argument in this case? The content to be found in books does not distract people from the paramount idea. As you can see, once again, very short, very simple, very clear, right? I'm not writing a very long sentence for it to make it very difficult to follow. No, very short, very objective, clear. Okay, this is my second argument. The content to be found in books does not distract people from the paramount idea. And as I told you, all the rest of these connectors, in fact, what's more, etc., as you're going to be able to see, are for complement. That is to say, I'm going to complement, I'm going to explain this argument further. I'm going to continue explaining, adding more data, information, more commentaries, perceptions, perspectives, whatever you can bring to the table. It's totally legitimate, okay? So for example, notice what I did. In fact, this is to be one of the more illustrious characteristics of books when compared to the TV. Oh, by the way, this word illustrious, I highlighted it because it's a very advanced word, right? I could have said here one of the greatest characteristics, right? But greatest is a very simple expression. So whenever you can include in your writing a very advanced vocabulary, fantastic, because of course the reviewer, when he reads this essay, he looks for those traits of a very high level of proficiency in your writing, and having a good vocabulary with words that are more scholarly than, as I say, let's say average, that is going to, of course, increase your chances of receiving a high qualification. So whenever you're able to include advanced words, okay? So one of the more illustrious characteristics of books when compared to the TV, namely, they always stay attached to the topic and does not take you out of motion with music, lights, or any other effect. What's more, should somebody want to see how TV is so destructive when compared to books, you can look to the fact that TV documentaries are not considered educational material anymore, but mere entertainment. Okay, so this is, as I said, my second argument and its complement. And finally, we come to the second illustration. In this case, I'm using to illustrate, right? And I'm going to illustrate now my second argument, not the first one anymore, but I'm going to offer an illustration, an example that, as I say, clarifies this idea in a very vivid manner with my own life. Let me show you how I did it. To illustrate, and here I say, my sister has said to me that every single time she has watched a documentary about artists, it was not because she actually wanted to learn about music. Actually, all she wanted was to observe the incredible costumes utilized in that documentary. Plus, she has started to watch them in order to follow the most recent trending. Indeed, this is a great indicator to observe that TV merely turns away people's attention from real knowledge and learning. By the way, this is totally false. My sister and I have never talked about documentaries or something, but I'm using this in order to illustrate what I said here, right? The content to be found in books does not distract people from the paramount idea, whereas, of course, TV does distract people, right? So I'm saying, hey, my sister, the only reason why she watches documentaries is because she's worried about costumes. She wants to see the incredible visual effects. She wants to see, I don't know, costumes, actors, actresses, but she's not concerned about learning. So this demonstrates that, yes, indeed, although books do not distract people from the paramount idea, documentaries and television indeed distract people from the paramount idea, right? And learning. So as you can see, I am illustrating this, and this is a completely made up illustration, by the way. As I say, you can do this with a lot of confidence because there's no way people, of course, know this. But as I say, any device or tool or mechanism you can use in order to demonstrate your level is totally fine here. They are looking for that, actually. They don't care about your honesty in this case. What they care is how good you can write in English. So show them, okay, by using any type of element you have. Great. Any question then about the body? Because with this, we are finalizing the body. As you can see, 2 arguments, 2 illustrations, very simple. And the only thing we have to discuss is the conclusion. Any question, dear students, about the body? Please tell me. Questions, clarifications? No? Great. No questions, I think, then. So the conclusion. The conclusion is the last part of the essay. And now, normally, okay, what the average test taker does, and of course, we do not want to be the average test taker, right? We want to be part of that very select group of people who managed to get more than 105 in the exam. But what average test takers do is that when they are about to write down a conclusion, the only thing they do is to offer a summary of what they said. So they say, well, to conclude, I said that reading is a very good thing because of this and this and that. So they make a summary, basically. But now let us think about that. Is that something actually positive? Is that something ingenious? Is that something that adds to the essay? Is that something, I don't know, innovative? Not at all, right? Because it's a mere summary. So instead of writing that as I say, I don't think is any type of beneficial or advantageous content to add to your essay, write down this type of conclusion. Let me show you. Let us see how I wrote this conclusion. To round off, I would like to say that it is advisable that parents educate their children to read at least 2 times what they watch on the TV. This way they could secure their children a good education and not to make them people addicted to simple entertainment. If you notice, what I'm doing here is to offer a word of advice. I'm telling my readers, in this case, the reviewer, right, that now that I have established my case, now that I have demonstrated why it said that reading is indeed more educational than watching movies or TV, you should do this in consequence. May your children read. May them read twice what they watch on the TV. So what I'm trying to do is to offer a conclusion that instead of offering some sort of summary that is super boring, not innovative, not perspicuous, nothing at all, what I'm doing is I'm offering a word of advice that not only shows a lot of confidence, but also adds something innovative. And of course, reviewers are totally bored and exhausted of looking at the same. So if you offer something new, something that, as I say, the average test taker is not going to do, of course, you're going to stand out from the rest in high qualification, right? So as I say, instead of writing a very generic conclusion, write down a word of advice, of course, related to your topic, right? In this case, I wrote this because it was related to my topic. What happens if your question is about vacations? And the question was about what is the best place to go for a vacation right now? And you say Cancun. And the rest of your essay, you said Cancun because of these reasons, because it has beautiful beaches and it has I don't know, beautiful landscapes, whatever. So at the end, you would say, right? To round off, I'd like to say that people should definitely come to Cancun in January, especially because in January, Cancun has a lot of special prices and offers to people. They also offer some family, I don't know, family special things, whatever, right? You can make any word of advice you want. Yes, I have questions, please. Arlette, please tell me.
No, sorry, it's my computer. I don't have any
Oh,
question.
once again, no, it's okay. Don't worry. Totally fine.
Sorry.
No, okay, don't worry. Great. Grisel, yes, you have a question?
Oh, yes, teacher, but more than a question is that if you could recommend us some web pages or material to practice the connectors, because I think they are very important in order to write a good paragraph. And there are some connectors that we saw today, and I have never listened to them before. And I
Yes.
think those are very interesting. And I would like to
Yeah.
learn more about it.
All right. Yeah, fantastic. Yes, totally. So yeah, of course, I'm gonna send them once we finish this class. I'm gonna send some exercises about connectors. Very good that you reminded me of that. Great, you're gonna have them to practice, as I say, and to learn more connectors, of course, in order to apply them into your essays and also to the next, of course, part of the exam that we're going to discuss later on. Okay, but yes, don't worry, dear. Who made this question in this case? It was Grisel, right? Don't worry, dear Grisel. I'm gonna send them yes or yes. Okay.
Thank you, teacher.
All right, my pleasure. Very good. So if there are no more questions, then we're gonna finalize here. Tomorrow we're gonna practice. Okay, the entire class is gonna be practical. So please, all of you come with your keyboards configured with American English. Okay. And be prepared with a quiet space for you to write down your essay, because as I say, all the class is going to be practical. All of you are going to write down essays using this structure, practicing, and I'm going to be able to offer you feedback, of course, at the end of your practices, okay? Great, so let me stop sharing this then. And before you go, please, I'm going to take your assistance, all right? And please, as well, you help me with your kind responses to our traditional poll, okay? Please look at your screen. Help me with that. And now, please, let me call your names. Okay, so when you listen to your name, please say present. All right. I am. Okay, good. So is here present our dear Roy Brian David?
Present.
Thank you very much, Roy. What about Abigail Graciela?
Present.
Thank you very much. Abigail, what about Patiño Araceli? What about Baca Mariana?
Present.
Thank you very much, Mariana. And finally, Cecilia Vargas. Okay, let's go to the other group. All right, so it's here present, Grisel Perez.
Yes, here I am, teacher. And my last name is Paz, and my second last name is Perez.
All right, thank you very much, Grisel. Great.
Thank
okay,
you.
so Grisel Paz. No, my pleasure. What about Daniela Lourdes?
Here, teacher.
Thank you very much, Daniela. What about Liliana Sonia?
Present, teacher.
Thank you very much, Liliana. What about Danilo Torrico? Okay, he was the one who was present, but got out for some compromises. What about Arlette Gabriela?
Hi, present, teacher.
Thank you very much, Arlette. Fantastic. And finally, we have Daniela Castellanos.
Here, teacher, present.
Great. Thank you very much, Daniela. Awesome. Well, fantastic. So please wait for that material that I'm going to send as fast as I can. And thank you very much for your kind responses. I'm going to be seeing you tomorrow in order to practice. So thank you very much. Okay. Have a fantastic night.
Thank you, teacher. See you tomorrow.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.